a deep dive exploration of human fascia, mycelial networks and cosmic resonance. Act: the forgotten architecture. For centuries, classical anatomy treated the human body like a collection of isolated parts. We studied the bones as individual pillars, the muscles as distinct engines, and the organs as separate gears working inside a biological machine. In this fragmented view of ourselves, anything that didn't fit into a clean medical category was stripped away during dissection and discarded as passive packing material. It was treated as mere biological wrapping paper. But nature never creates waste, and it never builds in isolation. What we were throwing away was the very thing that makes us a whole being. We were throwing away the fascia. If you have ever prepared a meal and noticed a paper-thin, semi-translucent, glistening film stretching across a piece of tissue, you have looked directly at this mystery. Fascia is a continuous, body-wide, three-dimensional matrix of connective tissue, primarily woven from ultra-strong collagen fibers, elastin, and a highly hydrated fluid base. It forms an unbroken internal web that encapsulates, penetrates, and stabilizes every single muscle, bone, nerve, and organ, from the crown of your head to the soles of your feet. Science now realizes that fascia is not a series of disconnected bags, but a single, massive, integrated organ system. It exists in 4 distinct layers, traveling from the superficial world directly beneath your skin down into the deep core of your physical architecture. First is the superficial fascia, a buoyant blend of fluid, fat, and fiber resting just under your skin. It acts as a shock absorber, a reservoir for water, and a protective conduit for delicate neurovascular pathways. Deeper down lies the deep fascia, a dense, highly organized, and formidable layer that wraps tightly around your muscles. It gives your musculature its form, transmits structural force across your skeleton, and creates a slippery, perfectly lubricated surface that allows neighboring muscles to glide smoothly past one another during motion. Deeper still, we find the parietal fascia, lining the structural walls of your internal cavities, followed by the visceral fascia. This deepest layer acts as an organic suspension system, cradling your heart, wrapping your lungs, and anchoring your digestive organs securely within the torso, while providing them with the structural flexibility required to expand, contract, and breathe. The living network. Far from a passive container, fascia is one of our largest sensory organs. It is densely populated with dynamic nerve endings, mechanoreceptors, and nociceptors. It acts as our primary matrix for proprioception, the subconscious intelligence by which the brain maps the body's location, tension, and orientation in 3-dimensional space. Act 2. The web below. Now, let your mind step outside the boundaries of the human skin. Walk into an ancient forest. Look up at the towering trees and ask yourself a fundamental question. Where does an individual, organism begin and end? Because beneath the soil beneath your feet lies an architectural mirror to the human body. Beneath the forest floor rests the mycelium. Mycelium is the vast, subterranean network of fungal threads, called hyphae, that weaves through the dark earth, branching across miles of wilderness. decades, traditional botany viewed fungi as simple decomposers operating on the margins of the plant kingdom. But just like our early misunderstandings of fascia, we miss the grand design. The mycelial network is the structural, informational, and chemical highway of the entire ecosystem. An underground phenomenon, often called the Wood Wide Web. It does not simply live alongside trees. It plugs directly into their root systems, forming a profound symbiotic alliance. Through this network, trees do not exist as isolated competitors. Instead, the mycelium transforms the forest into a singular, highly cooperative, conscious superorganism. If a tree in a distant grove is starved of water, the mycelial network redirects moisture to its roots. If a tree is under attack by pests, it transmits biochemical warning signals through the fungal threads, prompting neighboring trees miles away to manufacture defensive enzymes. Before the insects arrive, the network behaves as a shared circulatory system, an environmental nervous system, and an ancient subterranean archive of ecological intelligence.
When we hold these two systems side by side, the fascia within and the mycelium below, the structural parallels are impossible to ignore. This is not a coincidence. It is biomimicry at its most fundamental level. Nature relies on the architecture of the network, because networks are the most efficient way to distribute information, force, energy, and life. Both fascia and mycelium are continuous, self-healing, branching webs. Both are optimized to transmit signals across vast distances relative to their size. But the connection deepens when we look at the physical physics of the human form. Fascia is inherently a liquid crystalline matrix. Because of its highly organized arrangement of collagen and bound water molecules, it possesses the properties of a semiconductor. It is bioelectrically conductive. When you enter a natural environment and sit in meditation at the base of an ancient tree, you are not merely changing your visual scenery. You are placing a biological antenna directly into an active, vibrating electromagnetic field. Your fascia, rich with water and minerals, acts as a receiver for the grounding electrical charge of the earth. When your bare skin or feet touch the soil, an actual exchange of free electrons occurs, utilizing the fluid highway of your connective tissue to distribute stability throughout your internal architecture. Furthermore, consider the physics of entrainment, the law by which two independent rhythmic systems naturally synchronize when brought into close proximity. In our modern urban lives, our nervous systems operate in a state of high-frequency friction, driven by concrete, glass, rigid right angles, and constant digital notifications. Our sympathetic nervous system stays perpetually engaged. This chronic stress causes cells called myofibroblasts inside our fascia to physically contract, tightening our bodies like a drumhead, creating physical stiffness and locking away emotional tension. The forest moves at an entirely different velocity. The mycelial network and the root systems of the trees operate on a slow, ancient, restorative rhythm. When you sit in stillness among them, your awareness settles, your breath slows, your nervous system drops out of its frantic modern cadence, and it begins to mirror the steady, grounded resonance of the earth below. As your nervous system relaxes, it sends a biochemical cascade through your body, signaling the tight, bound-up collagen strands of your fascia to physically soften, rehydrate, and release their grip. To speak of connecting to nature with your fascia is not a flight of poetic fantasy. It is a biological reality. It is the moment a highly sensitive, liquid crystal sensory network recognizes its own reflection in the vast underground web of the earth. We are not separate entities walking on top of a dead planet. We are an extension of its living structure. Our muscles are wrapped in the same patterns that weave through the soil. Our internal wiring is tuned to the same frequencies that organize the forests. By understanding our fascia, and by stepping back into the wild terrain that shaped it, we remember a foundational truth. We have an internal web designed entirely for connection, and the earth has an external. One meditation is simply the act of tuning them to the exact same frequency.